Hello, hello. We are live on a special edition of Schmudgeon of Curmudgeon today. My usual default partner of Mr. Dewey Conway is he's spending some time away, vacationing, being a cool guy out in the world while we're stuck here. So today I got the luckiness of having my good buddy, Mr. Michael Roberti, be the honorary curmudgeon tonight. And tonight we are with the great, the one and only Mr. Joseph John Lee. Joe, welcome to a Schmudgeon or Curmudgeon. Thanks for joining us. And before we kick off, I would like to say that for everyone who's watching or who might listen or rewatch this on the replay, since Dewey's gone, I am handling all the technical duties, so they might not work the same smoothness that it does with Dewey. So caveat, everyone.
When in doubt, blame Dewey.
We will. We always do.
Always.
We always do. All right, so Joe, I don't know if you've before we get you deep into introductions and about the books and all the fun stuff, we do have a little bit of a thing we do. It is called, let me see if I can present this and show this. But it's called our curmudgeon scale. So we go to slideshow. So, oh, we lost Mike. Oh, no, there's me. Okay. So we have, what is our curmudgeon scale? So on a 0 to a 10 basis, 0 means you're just having a good day. Nothing's got you upset. Nothing's bad. You're doing good. And 10 is burn the world down. And in this case, a bludgeon. We're going to bludgeon anybody we need to, bludgeon fences, all of what we need to do. So we'll start with you, Joe, since you're our guest. Where would you rate yourself? Oh, wait. See? Technical difficulties.
Oh no! Now you've gone and done it.
Technical difficulties.
Now I'm right at 10.
See how the sausage is made.
Yeah, right. I guess I'll just zoom it, huh? Since that didn't really want to work.
Yeah, I will say my curmudgeon.
Let me know where you're at.
It's going.
You know what? I'll say like
That's too
work
much.
stuff is just lovely right now with the everything going on in the world, and also it's our fiscal year end, so I'm dealing with a lot of financial bullshit right now. So put me in the upper end, like 7 or some shit. I don't know.
7, not too bad, not too bad. Mike, Mr. Honorary Curmudgeon.
All right, so things are going good in one sense, bad in another. Gone to grad school, but had to call financial aid office today. Have other stuff going on, and I'm just kind of an unpleasant person, so I'm going to go with a solid 9.
As you'll see, because I jumped the gun here, but we've been keeping track of these, Joe, and Mike, I think, has the highest score as our guest. So I'm actually not in a bad mood today. So I would normally say 6, but because I'm doing technical difficulties, I'll go with you on a 7 here, Joe. So what we've got here, oh, so Dewey doesn't count. So Mike, you're saying you're at 9?
9.
I'm a 7. Joe's a 7. So, we got some guests going here. We got some 1s and 3s and low scores. And then what do we got here? Boom. Tim is a 10. What?
Oh, we just got angry Tims in here, don't we? I'm surprised Zeb was only at 1.5. I mean, come on,
he's a very happy guy for how. But I guess it's an innocence of youth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he just turned 30, so it's going to go all downhill for him.
Oh, I know. Dude. Wait for 35.
Right. Well, you're official. We're going to make some graphs and then show this stuff when we get a little bit more people on this. But thank you for playing our little fun game. So, Joe,
of course,
please tell all the few people that are watching and us that haven't read your books or know anything about you, give us a little spiel of who Joseph John Lee is, please.
All right. So I like to say that I contain multitudes. I started my career by writing like a noble, dark, historical fantasy series called The Spellbinders and the Gunslingers. The first book was called The Bleeding Stone, which is right there in Bill's hands. Bleeding Stone was a semi-finalist in Spiffbo the year I entered it, against all odds and better judgment. The series is complete, as you see right here. It's three books, also a prequel novella. That's where I started. And then after writing the most depressing shit for a few years, I took a hard left turn and wrote cozy fantasy instead, which is the Dragons of Nora series. Upscaled came out last summer. Dragon Along came out last week.
Yay, congrats.
And they're cozy dragons. The first book is the story of a girl finding a dragon and wanting to throw him a birthday party. And the second book is the tale of how her brother finds his own dragon and is miffed that the dragon doesn't want to be friends with him. So they're very cozy, silly, middle grade YA. So complete opposite of the Spellbinder series. And I'm currently working on a new epic fantasy project that I'm very deep in the weeds in for book one. Haven't unveiled the full name right now. I'm just code naming it Project Herodotus, but it is I'm about 220,000 words into the first book right now. I just started part 4 of 4, like literally today.
Wow.
So I'm hoping to have the first draft done by the end of the summer, and hopefully doing a Kickstarter to launch it and end of the year, beginning of 26, somewhere around there.
That is a chonker.
I'm drowning in pain.
So I've seen your estimates. You're saying around 300,000 words ish.
Yeah.
How do you have that as like your first book of the series?
So originally my plan was just 250. And then when I started outlining it, and it got longer and longer of what I felt I needed to do, it was like, shit, this is gonna get closer to 300, isn't it? So I'm at where I'm at. So it's should be a fun ride. Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. And I'm planning 8 books with it. So once I finish this, I'm gonna have to do that shit all over again. So
wait, 8 books of that length?
At minimum, yeah. I mean, the following books are definitely gonna be longer than that. So pray for me.
I will send the prayer up to Brandon Sando for you and see what happens. Patron saint of long books.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it is kind of my own love letter to like the big epic fantasies that I've always loved reading, Stormlight, Song of Ice and Fire, more recently Malazan. Any love that Sanderson could give me, that'd be much appreciated.
You're gonna take up like a whole shelf of books with that
Just one book.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that one copy that somebody did of the Wheel of Time, like all the books in one? That's what yours is going to be like. You're just going to have this big old giant shelf.
Perfect tool for bludgeoning. So exactly. that's all I want to do is just create an absolute weapon.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll get back to that one, but because just came out, we do want to talk a little bit about your cozy or your little, as you call, middle grade YA Dragon hard left turn from your first series. So Dragon Along came out just last week, correct?
Yep, it came out on the 3rd.
So 1 week ago or yesterday, I guess I should do math better. So what, aside from like wanting to write something different from your first series, what made you, where'd this idea come from of like a fun little story, and how many books do you plan on writing in this? So just give us a little background on this.
Yeah, so when I was finishing the Spellbinder series and just kind of reflecting on how depressing the series was overall, I started to think more and more about how my niece and nephew, they're 12 and 8 right now, and how like they're big readers, they're big word nerds like me, and like how I kind of wanted to write something for them, and how the Spellbinder series was very much not for them in any way, shape, or form. So I really just kind of set out to write Dragons of Nora for them. So the two main characters in the book, in Upscale, a girl named Ailish, in Dragon Along, it's a boy named Cameron. They're literally just my niece and nephew, and a lot of the characters in both books are basically just kind of like pastiches of like myself, and also like some of my friends and family. So I was like my sister is their mother in the books. My parents are in the second book. I'm like my character's in the first book. My wife is in both books.
Which one are you, Joe?
Oh, I'm Yosef. So like if there's like something that looks like like a familiar name, I mean it's just a Celticized version of someone I actually know. So yeah, it was just like to write something for my niece and nephew for them to enjoy. Whether they've actually read either one yet, I have no idea. But but I know my sister has. My sister owns both books, and like that's the first step. I
will say I've read Upscaled before I started The Bleeding Stone, so it was kind of like did the opposite. Upscaled was just so much fun. Like it's just there's silliness in it, but there's also a lot of heart in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex makes a good point. You need to just go read it to him. But yeah, like it hit. Like I'm not a huge cozy reader, but it hit a lot of the good bits that cozy is meant to do. It's supposed to be fun, supposed to be lighthearted, smaller scale, but still hit some emotions. And I loved Upscaled. It was just a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to dragging along. And you said it's based on the brother, not the sister, which was the main character of, I guess you'd say, main character of book one.
Yeah, that's right. So like what I set out to do when I started working on these books is I wanted to do one book for each of them. So Upscaled was always going to be for my niece. Dragon Along was always going to be for my nephew. So Dragon Along is it does carry like a couple plot threads from Upscaled, but it's largely its own independent piece. So like they exist together, but you can read them independently of each other. But it's funny. Like I had a ton of fun writing Upscaled last year. I remember just joking in the lead up to it because I was still in the lead up to the Legion of the Lost, which is the final book of the Spellbinder series when I was writing Upscaled, and I wrote Upscaled in a month, like front to back, and I kept on joking. It's like like the 3-4 years I spent on the Spellbinder series and went fine, but I'm farting out Upscaled in a month, and if this just becomes my most successful release, and it wound up being my most successful release. So who fucking knows how book marketing works these days?
No one.
I mean, I feel the pain.
Yeah.
My middle grade is mine and Dewey's middle grade is by far the bigger of the stories. It is the quote unquote easier to write.
Yeah, and Tana was a lot of fun too. And I'm like 400 pages into God Plus Tragedy right now, and you're also very good. Right. Yeah, I can see Tana is a much easier one to just dive into.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
It's just by the slimmest of margins, but
right.
But yeah, then when I started, but I actually found Dragon Along, even though it's the shortest book I've written and released, it was the most difficult book I've had to write too. Because because I usually have no problems writing sequels. Writing comedy sequels is a different ballgame entirely because you just don't want to recycle jokes. You don't want to it feels like there's an added pressure to do something with a sequel to justify its existence. And I feel like that's why so many film comedy sequels are shit.
Well, yeah, you think of The Hangover.
That was my
one.
That was gonna be my first example. Yeah,
perfect movie, perfect adult comedy, and then the sequel is basically the same movie, just in a different location. So
I tried. I tried as hard.
Slapstick to it, a little bit of slapstick to it.
Yeah, so I definitely tried as hard as I could to make the connection clear, but also distance itself enough from upscale that it's it doesn't feel like it's treading the same water. So that was definitely a challenge. It was still fun to write, but yeah, somehow harder to write than the 300,000 word book that I'm currently writing. I don't know. Writing's weird.
Writing is definitely weird. And I will say, Dewey always, since he's the artist, he always goes to the covers. So since we're looking at the two covers together, I love in the sequel of Dragging Along, reading upscaled. If you look close enough, it's the upscaled cover on the book. That chef's kiss right there, Joe. I love it.
Yeah. I just very minor spoilers. I kind of went meta Spaceballs and included upscaled in Dragging Along. So this cover is canonically accurate. But yeah, just going back to your other question about why I took that that sharp left turn. I definitely much is made about readers needing palate cleansers for from heavier books to lighter fare, just to not get burnt out by reading. I feel like as writers we kind of need that too. And I definitely needed that after finishing the Spellbinder series. I didn't want to just be the fucking depressing fantasy guy. I wanted to I wanted to contain multitudes. I wanted to show what else I can write. It was a fun challenge just to write the complete polar opposite of that. So yeah, and as far as how many books, right now it's just going to be the two until I get through the first arc of Herodotus, and then I might jump back into this. Part of me wants to do kind of almost like a Discworld style series with a lot of standalone novels that set in the same world, but they can all be read independently of each other. Yeah. And I'm basically I'm just keeping a Google Doc of more pun titles that could work for different titles that will inform what direction I'm going to go with the story. I've come up with Claw and Order, Winging It, Old Flames. So I think I have probably, I don't know, 10, 15 title ideas. And also I might continue plot threads in Upscaled and Dragging Along, and maybe create mini series within the series. Whether I go through that, I'm not sure, but you
just got to go where it takes you, whatever inspiration takes you, you just got to do it. And you said, I agree 100% with the need. As a writer, we also need palate cleansers. Especially when we all write heavier stuff.
Right.
So it's when you got those heavier, darker stories, you need a lighter world to kind of just breathe, I guess you could say. But before we go on, we have another thing we like to do here. So we like to do some silly questions to get to know Joe a little bit more. So, while we see if it shows, why are you not showing? There we go. So we have a wheel, and the questions are on this little side here. We have 1 through 6. We have 6 questions, and then we have an old curmudgeon. If it lands on the curmudgeon, luckily Dewey's not here because he hates this bit, even though he created it. If it lands on the curmudgeon, you get to ask us any question you want, and we have to answer.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
think hard. So think hard. All right,
shit.
let's go.
Bill, it's almost 9:30. You're asking me to think hard.
Well, hard enough for 9:30.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, let's see. Big money, no whammies. Question number 2. Ooh, fancy.
Ooh.
Question 2. If you could write lore for any video game series and not Final Fantasy Tactics, which would be?
Before I answer that, I will say, plot-wise, I was like in writing Herodotus, I was kind of inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics as a plot device. So,
Mike told us we had to pick on you for Final Fantasy Tactics today.
Move me up to 10 on the curmudgeon scale, please. I'm kidding.
Tactics is the best Final Fantasy, and I will not accept any other opinions.
6.
Okay, that's fair too.
Yeah, there you go.
I won't accept any other opinions. Yeah, no. Lore for any video game series, I'd probably like Mass Effect or something would be would have been cool to write for. I mean, maybe tidy up that ending. But the lore of Mass Effect was so incredible. It was like really like unlike anything I played at the time, and I just like such a beautiful, rich world that going further, just further back in its timeline, just like right somewhere in that space. That'd have been really cool. Another one that something that would be really fun to just continue and expand in that world. It might just be recency bias, but Expedition 33 has such a cool plot concept that writing something in like the backstory of that would be phenomenal too, because there's always like little tidbits about that you can find in the game about previous expeditions that would be, some of them would be an absolute blast to write. So one of those two, I think.
Like I've not played the game. I know people have talked about it. It's literally like the 33rd expedition. Is that
actually, it is the 67th. The count goes backwards.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Learn something new every day. Wow.
All right, let's go one more before we get back to the books. Uh-oh. See, now you got to think.
Shit.
The old man curmudgeon. Any questions?
So, hey, Mike, what's your beef against Final Fantasy Tactics?
Okay. It is not actually a beef, but here is my list. It is a great game. I was actually talking about this in the Willow Wraith chat just a little bit ago. It is a fantastic game. I would say it's one of the best tactical games of that type I've played, but I would not consider it a Final Fantasy game. If you're talking about the best Final Fantasy, the narrative structure is good, and the plot is decent. It is not as fully realized as, say, a 6, where, as I mentioned, spoilers for a 30-something-year-old game or whatever, Celes throws herself off a cliff. Okay, and then I don't think that and I think some of the better moments that are in there, where you see the chocobos or when you get Cloud all of a sudden, is like literally those little cameos give you like, oh, Final Fantasy. It's almost like you're playing a game that references Final Fantasy rather than playing a Final Fantasy.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I will say, just like plot wise, the original release was definitely messy because the translation was horrible.
No, I played War of Lions, so like no.
Oh, you did? Oh, War of the Lions. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's just not like amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
the
I
gameplay
get that.
carries
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, but like thematically, especially nowadays, and Yasumi Matsuno actually released a statement when the remaster was announced last week about like the kind of like the social and economical
Mhm.
inspirations that led him to write the story back in the 90s, and turned around and said, and these themes are especially important today. And it's like, hey,
Right, I agree.
you got that right. This story's fucking timeless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of
But
the
yeah,
thought
no, that's
process
fair.
comes from that. But like, I think I would have liked to see more like in-depth character growth. And I mean, there are moments where the character has changed, but it's almost like flash forwards rather than you seeing the actual changes take place.
Yeah, and also like a couple characters, once they join your party, they just kind of lose plot relevance.
There you go. Yeah.
like Agrius is such like a major character in the
Mhm.
first two acts, or well, in Act 2 when like the time jump happens,
Right.
and then like after you permanently joined your party, she's just there for lightning
Right.
stab. So
See, I've never played Tactics, so I don't know anything about it.
yeah, all this is going right over your head.
Yep. I played a part of 5, played 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, through 13, and that was it. Like I'm the later ones, not the early guys. But,
Yeah, no, I had a I played a couple of the ones from the 90s. Like I played 4 because it was mainly because I had it as part of like that Final Fantasy Chronicles collection on the PS1 that for some reason also came with Chrono Trigger.
Oh my gosh, that might be the best Final Fantasy game is Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger is great. All right, let's
that or Xenogears.
Question for Joe here. Number 1. What is number 1? Number 1. If dragons were miraculously discovered a la Rain of Fire, would they be vicious devastation, or would they be fun and cute like Pilib? Pilib is from Upscaled.
So, for context, what's Rain of Fire?
Oh, you've never seen Rain of Fire?
No.
This happened to me with Terminator. All my questions were about Terminator, and I had or something, and I had never seen it.
Rain of Fire is an early 2000s movie with Christian Bale, Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler's in it. So they discover in London, like in a tunnel, a dragon, like a male dragon egg, and he comes up, and then like there was like dragon eggs all over the world, and he basically pollinated them. And so now dragons took over the world 20 years later, and they're going to fight back. So,
okay.
Damn it, Joe.
I will admit that my knowledge of film is very not good. Like, basically, you asked me like something from like Star Wars or the Marvel movies up to Endgame. I can get you there, but I am I am woefully uncultured.
It's a good dragon movie. The dragons look better than they did in Game of Thrones. And this was early 2000.
Heck yeah. Anyway, I would think it'd be cool if all dragons like birthday parties and pie, and they just had normal ass jobs like being barbers or pilots or something. If I'm keeping in line with Dragons of Nora, but don't worry, there's gonna be real dragons in Herodotus too. So I'm containing multitudes.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to some more questions here in a little bit, but I'm gonna dive into your first series, the Spellbinders and the Gunslingers, starting with the Bleeding Stone, which I'm about 60% through. They just got through the Wood Tribe people's place, so they're heading to the city.
Yeah.
So for those who have not read, I know you gave a little bit of a pitch, but for those who have not read this series, can you give an elevator pitch about it, please?
Yeah, so the Spellbinders and the Gunslinger series, it's kind of like a fantasy Last of the Mohicans. So it's basically depicting a war of conquest, but from the perspective of the indigenous peoples who are being conquered. So it's kind of like the waning days of that conflict, and it's kind of framed as like a deconstruction of history being written by the victors. And when I wrote it, it was at a point where like I was reflecting a lot on how frustrated I was with how history is taught, especially American history, is taught in schools, and specifically like say like Christopher Columbus, like character Aritz is very much just Christopher Columbus, where there's like he's like mythologized in American culture, whereas in reality he was like
not
one of history's biggest villains. Like
not a very good person.
So so it was kind of like contextualized like that. And like I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun emotionally destroying people over the course of 3 books and a novella. Mike fully understands. He got beaten over the head with pain.
But
Bleeding
Stone, it will do to you. If you want to feel bad about yourself and about everything, read the Bleeding Stone, but like in a good way, like a cathartic bad. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, I find it interesting, and I wanted to ask you what. So the main character, I guess you would say the main character is Sen. She is cursed, the cursed born, because she was born during an eclipse. But you made her an alcoholic, and she has lots of emotional damage from everything in her life and around. What made you decide to write that as your main character? Because that is pretty heavy topic to put onto a main character in a fantasy book that you don't usually see.
Yeah, it was kind of a want to like have a main character whose flaws are like very clear. Like she's not necessarily like a heroic character. She's just kind of someone who's thrust into unfortunate circumstances after her life has been defined by unfortunate circumstances. And it's kind of like when you're at the bottom trying to rise back, like crawl out of that pit, basically. And like the family dynamic a bit was inspired by my own, like for Sen's family, where so I'm the youngest of 3. My brother had substance abuse problems, in his younger years. So but like still, obviously, like he's still my brother. I still love him dearly. So it's kind of like pulling from that like family history, family dynamic a bit, just to try to kind of pull something out of from there. So it was I kind of drew some inspiration from that, and just like climbing out of like the worst of scenarios. So that was kind of the main reasoning, and also I thought it would just be like it would be a fun twist on your main protagonist, or someone who's not necessarily in the best of states, shall we say.
Yeah. No, she definitely does not start in the best of states, that's for sure. So, well, again, since Dewey's not here and he always goes to this, covers are phenomenal, and we share a cover artist.
Yep, Felix Ortiz. Woohoo!
Our goat, Mr. Felix Ortiz. These covers are just absolutely gorgeous. And I remember, I think you told me you were trying to go for like an old, like when Children of the Black Moon came out, you were saying you were going for like the old school kind of like you said, Last of the Mohegans kind of look with this type of stuff, right?
Right.
Did you tell him that, and he just kind of like came up with this awesome idea?
Yeah, I'm sure but like you can give Felix like even the most basic of prompts, and he just turns into something magical. And so like I really just kind of gave him like maybe like a couple reference points, a couple ideas, and so things that like were one way in my mind, and when Felix put it to paper, it was like 20 times better than anything I could have thought of. So yeah, like it's like kind of a like Bleeding Stone and Children especially. It's kind of this like the kind of like this battle between tradition and modernity. In a sense, like Bleeding Stone, you have like two indigenous people, and in the background you see like the smokestacks and like industrialization on like land that was once theirs. Children of the Black Moon, you see firearms more prominently depicted, which and Sen herself is just kind of trapped in the middle between like she's holding like one of the tribal pendants in one hand and a gun in the other. She's kind of trapped in the middle. Like for well, I won't get into why because you haven't finished the Bleeding Stone yet, but yeah. So yeah, and Felix really just did a fantastic job in doing that, and then like Legion of the Lost is just kind of like that final like trying to grasp like the final grasp of tradition. Sen fully in tribal garb. She has like all her tribal equipment with her. Like the last stand of the tribes is behind her. Like that was just kind of like wanted to create like a last stand type of motif, and yeah, Felix is a wizard, plain and simple.
He really is, and I find it funny, or not funny, like not funny, haha, but like I find it very interesting that you start the book off 40 years after, or whatever, 40 some odd years after the invasion and after the conquest. So you know that they lose, basically. Yeah. And so in the book, you do a lot of time jumping. What made you kind of decide to do something like that?
I think part of it is just, in a way, stories don't necessarily happen linearly. At least like how I tell my own story, just in general conversation. I'm always just jumping all over the place. That's probably just my own ADD addled brain more than anything. But yeah, it was just something that I felt fit the story well of having, okay, here's where things stand, after the main events are done. Like we're starting here, we're basically showing the end before the beginning. And I thought it was kind of like I think it was like, was it Columbo that actually showed like every episode they showed like the person doing the crimes, and then the story of that episode is just how they're not a who done it, but how are we gonna get him type of thing. Yeah. And that was kind of what I set out to do. It was like, okay, we know how it happens. Now let's see how it's gonna get there, and the ramifications of the future state like after the fact. And then just like with flashbacks as well, I thought with Sen, it was a good way to delve into her psyche while not having it feel like disjointed in the context of a single chapter. Rather than just like having like a lore dump or something. Yeah. Just show specific scenes of why she kind of ended up in the position that she was. And then the second and third books are also have flashback characters, but they're different characters. So part of that was I think like some inspiration for like those like flashback scenes, and having a flashback character per book was actually kind of inspired by Sanderson with Stormlight, because he does that with he does a different flashback character for each Stormlight book, and that was kind of I drew some inspo from that. So and at the end of the day, I just really like nonlinear narratives. that's just what my brain gravitates towards sometimes.
Yeah, nice. Mike, you got any? I know.
Oh yeah, sure. So I was actually thinking, and I really loved the Bleeding Stone when I read it. You mentioned that with Final Fantasy Tactics, one of the creators said that that those themes are as important today as they were back then, and probably more so. I used to teach Christopher Columbus's diary, but not typically as like you normally think of it as this is what happened, but rather how he tried to represent it. What do you think is different about maybe reading The Bleeding Stone today compared to when it released? Do you think that there is a closer relationship between our current situation and the narrative, or do you think that the context has changed in any way since its release?
I think like when I released The Bleeding Stone, or actually I should say when I wrote The Bleeding Stone, it was 2020, so it was as a country we were having all these conversations all the time, after the George Floyd killing, and then the Black Lives Matter protests. These were conversations that we were all having at the time, and this was kind of like my contribution to that conversation. I'm a little late after the fact, but it was still my contribution to it. And then I feel like we kind of stopped talking about things like this, especially when Joe Biden was president, and now we're back to talking about it again because of circumstances.
That's actually kind of what I wanted to get at is I was looking at a quote from my own book today, and it was and I wrote mine in 2021, which was right after January 6th things happened and other things happened, and it's in a lot of ways I think that the anger and the disappointment I felt then is actually more acute now, because we haven't learned our lesson, and it seems like we're continually not learning these lessons. So yeah, I mean, do you feel that's the kind of same way with your book? Is that we're still kind of trudging over the same people, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely. It's definitely. Yeah, like what Alex just said in the chat. Yeah, it's definitely feeling angrier now because now it's okay. We're doing this shit again. And for 4 years, it wasn't so much it's like, hey, we solved it. It was just, hey, we're kicking the can down the road for 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
sorry to make it heavy, guys.
Way to go heavy, Mike.
All right, I'm at a 10 now.
Change that curmudgeon.
I'm amending the curmudgeon scale. No, but yeah, I think it's still a worthwhile book to read, a worthwhile discussion to have, especially now where education is being attacked now, and Bleeding Stone is a direct response to education in a sense, and me having a background in history, was going to become a historian until academia burnt me out, and I hated academia.
Same.
But me having that background, me just being frustrated that okay, this work that I could be doing is just going to be ignored anyway. And now we're seeing what happens when history and education and all these things that we should be focusing on are being basically villainized instead. Things like the Spellbinder series are very, I think, still very important reads, maybe more so now. I don't know, maybe I'm tooting my own horn, I don't know. But yeah, I think, to answer your question, Mike, yeah, definitely as important to read, maybe more so, I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty, it's definitely, as I'm reading it, I'm feeling a little bit more anger than I probably should, with a joyous read, based on things going on in the world. If I would have read this last year, probably would have been a little bit less angry. But
sorry, I don't mean to jump in there, but I think there's something important in that too, and that's something that bothers me with students is they'll love a book until it's too sad, and then they get really upset. And I'm like, that's the point, is you should feel upset reading this. And I think that those reads, that emotion is more important than often just enjoying it. So like, I mean, like, I know that, sometimes like we like to read a book for fun, but like, I'm glad that there are people out there writing things that are making those emotions happen. Like, I mean, I was very upset when I read The Bleeding Stone back in 2022, 2023. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But I remember like just being very upset, and like kind of that profound, beautiful sadness of the righteous anger, And I think that that's good that you can evoke that in people with your books.
Yeah, and I'm now like, at least right now, I don't feel like I'm gonna write something as abjectly depressing as The Bleeding Stone is. At least not maybe until we're in a position to collectively feel upset about things again, without it being like an undue stress that we don't need.
Right. All right. Let's bring some levity to these conversations.
Sorry, once again.
The teacher, tired teacher, and Mike is coming out. All right, number 6. How many times did you watch the Monty Python Inquisition sketch when conceding the Inquisition in Dragons of Nora?
Funnily enough, I don't think I watched a single time during the writing. Like, I've seen the sketch. Yeah, I've obviously seen the sketch,
okay.
But not just
Do you know what that is, Mike?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just like one of those things that was, back in my mind of, it was like, what, I'll find a way to like work this line in there somewhere, and I did. I know it didn't take much, but
Inquisition. Good.
Yeah.
Those are good skits. Good skits. All right. Number 3. What is number 3? I don't even remember. Okay, which of your characters would survive the zombie apocalypse, and which would eat it first?
Oh man, like within the Dragons of Nora series specifically, or
whichever ones you want.
Okay. So
there are 2 different types, obviously.
I from the Spellbinder series, I would, for the survivor, I'm not going to say who it is, but I will say the survivor from the Spellbinder series.
Oh, smart.
I can't say who it is until because I don't think Mike, you've only read The Bleeding Stone, right?
Yeah, I was only able to do the audiobooks at the time, but I've been eyeing the second one for a while now. I just gotta get to it.
Yeah. Okay. So then obviously, Bill, you're not done with the first book yet either. So I will say no further than that. And plenty of fucking people eat it. I don't know. For Dragons of Nora, I'm gonna say, I don't know, all the zombies are distracted with pie or something, so everybody lives.
Fair enough. We'll do that. We'll give you that answer.
Yeah, it's the perfect cozy answer. It's
right.
Yeah, it's like in Bob's Burgers where Tina has her erotic friend fiction is just having erotic dreams about zombies.
Oh man, that is such a good scene.
All right, number 5. Which literary world do you think would be far better with dragons?
I'm trying to like think of like the most like absurd mishmash with dragons. Like I don't know. Wouldn't it be hilarious if like in a like or like Dragons in the Great Gatsby or some shit? Like,
you need to write that. I will buy that as soon as it comes out.
You just appealed to Mike there as soon as you said The Great Gatsby.
I love The Great Gatsby, first of all, and I actually really enjoyed Pride and Prejudice and Zombies quite a bit, even though I've never. Pride and Prejudice is fine, and I've read parts of it. But The Great Gatsby with dragons, like I just see like the green light could be dragon's breath, maybe. I might have to steal that myself.
Mike's like, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
I activated English teacher Mike.
you sure did.
Yeah, or what's it? Oh fuck, I'm completely blanking on the name. I want to tend to rabbits, and then Lenny gets shot in the head.
Of Mice and Men.
Yes, I kept on saying No Country for Old Men, but I knew that was not right. But also that would
also be a funnier move.
But just like, instead of I want to tend to rabbits, I want to tend to dragons, and then Lenny still gets shot in the head.
I feel like, and I've never read the whole book because I really hated the beginning, but I feel like Catcher in the Rye with dragons, and the guy's just so like unaffected by it, like all these phony dragons.
These dragons are fucking stupid.
Yeah, exactly. That would be good.
Yeah, Holden Caulfield remains an absolute douchebag.
Yeah, I couldn't get like I'm gonna do good faith effort to read this because I'm an English teacher, and I got a few pages in and I was like, this is not it. I'm not feeling it.
So just to go off on a tangent on that real quick. So my junior year English class, we read Catcher in the Rye, and our final exam was just Catcher in the Rye, and for the essay, the essay prompt was, what do you think happened to Holden Caulfield after the end of Catcher in the Rye? And this was like such a low effort English class for me that I literally just wrote, he probably just worked at a gas station because he was an absolute douchebag. And I got an A.
I mean, that's a very likely scenario. Like I was thinking he just, or like became some type of yuppie of some type where like some soulless job, you know?
Yeah. I don't even remember Catcher. Like I read it. It's been so long since I've read that book and I've never wanted to pick it up again, ever again. It's not like one of those books that I read and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll give it a try again. No, didn't care.
I couldn't get through a few pages without feeling like I really wanted to kill John Lennon. So like it just
So it was a book written for emotion, and it got you.
But I mean, John Lennon was dead already, so it just kind of
revive him in the zombie apocalypse and shoot him again.
Just kill the Paul McCartney robot instead.
There you go.
All right, last question before we finish this up. But this one's specifically for you, Joe.
Sweet.
As a Boston Red Sox fan, how betrayed were you by Johnny Damon going to the Yankees in 2006?
So fucking betrayed. like full on, like I think like in 2005 I had first started to grow my hair out because of Johnny Damon. And then like it was in like 8th grade. I was in like the awkward, like I'm 14 years old, I'm trying to grow out my hair, and then Johnny Damon fucking signs with the Yankees. It's like, oh, this sucks. So
I'm not even a Red Sox fan, and I felt betrayed by that. I mean, at the time, I hate the Yankees, so it's just
and then it just gets rid of the caveman look, and it's just like, this just feels wrong.
Who are you? Holden Caulfield would be disgusted.
Yeah, and now he's back to that look, and it's like, shut up, Johnny Damon.
Yeah.
I knew I had to get a Red Sox one in there, and I was like, oh, this is a good one for Joe. All right. So as we're winding down here, can you give us a little bit of a spoiler, or a little teaser of what this 8-book big chunky series that you're working on is? Because all we know is the Project Herodotus.
Yeah. So basically, it is. How do I describe this? So it's basically kind of like a found narrative, a discovered history. So it's framed kind of similarly to how Final Fantasy Tactics is framed, in that eat shit, Mike. No, but like centuries before, there was this multi-continental war that went on, and like all the years following, and even like the years during the conflict, the reasons behind the war were really murky. And as time went on, details became so sparse. I was really only like records of like this one hero who quelled the conflict and across like these 3 continents. Flash forward 400 years, and this scholar finds this huge manuscript that is detailing the events of this war in greater detail than has ever been discovered, but it's been stowed away like deep in the archives of the library for centuries. And it's basically this scholar reading through reading through this the events of this conflict and seeing that some truths are hidden, some lies are elevated, and along the way there have been immortals running the show in various aspects of these 3 continents this entire time across centuries. So it's kind of it's basically like a love letter to, like I said earlier, a love letter to these epic fantasies I loved reading. And the more I get into Malazan, the more the Malazan influence has kind of been coming out when I write it. So yeah, that's kind of the little teaser right there. And similar to what I did with Spellbinders, like each book is kind of have like a flashback, like a primary flashback character. So but again, a lot of these characters, like their arcs stretch centuries rather than decades. So get ready for that.
Very, very cool. So Mike, do you have any last questions before we it's getting late, so I don't want you to
that sounds really cool. I'm interested to see how you connect it and keep it going throughout that
books.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, I'm having trouble with a story that takes place over roughly 2.5-3 years. So I mean,
yeah,
more power to you, dude. Like, I'm impressed that you're able to keep track of all of that. And then, I mean, you might reference Malaz. How do you say it? Malazan?
Malazan. I've heard like a million different pronunciations. I just go with Malazan.
But and that's the thing is, like, I'd like to dig into something like that one day. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's like that the density of that always kind of scares me off. But I will try yours when it comes out, because I mean, I already like your writing with the Bleeding Stone, and I feel like you'd be able to handle that with maybe a more even hand, perhaps, going into it. So I'm interested to see how that goes off.
Yeah, and it really kind of helps me feel like I actually have utility for my history degrees, because it's really feeling like like it's basically like a historical tome essentially, and like this scholar is going through it. He has frequent interjections in the form of footnotes that are they're going to start off just like giving historical context, and that which will help for the.
So there are going to be footnotes in it.
There are footnotes in it. I think like I think I'm upwards of like 100 footnotes in this manuscript right now so far. But like there are going to be like kind of like historical background interjections, but also as things kind of unravel a bit, you'll see actual commentary to kind of flow in there, almost like a House of Leaves style thing, where there's another story going on in the footnotes.
Did you ever read Jay Kristoff's Nevernight series?
No, I did not.
Because it's a very similar concept to that, where he uses footnotes in there, and the footnotes do the heavy lifting of the world building lore, where it's kind of like they interject like, oh, this is this is what this means, this is where it comes from type stuff. But it's written like the book series is written by a separate character telling these stories of the main character, and those footnotes kind of help do that world building lifting. So it sounds similar to what you're saying here. It's a really cool idea, especially when it's done really well.
And that gives me an idea for like a comp series that I didn't know about. So,
Well, that
or
one
that I've never read. So
it's a kind of an ancient Roman world. It's like based on ancient
okay,
Rome almost. So
sweet. Yeah, and that's like one of the. It's like when I was in academia, like footnotes were my favorite thing because I didn't have to interrupt the flow of what I was writing. I was like, you know what? I need to hit a word count. This footnote's going to be really long. So
yeah. Well, Joe, thank you for joining us. Mike, thank you for
Thank you guys for having me.
stepping in for Dewey. Joe, any last comments you'd like to say other than go buy your books, obviously, and
yeah,
read his books?
yeah. Buy my books, read my books. Please, maybe enjoy them if you want to. Yeah. My most recent book, Dragon Along, came out last week. You can read Upscaled and Dragon Along together for a complete story. My next series is going to begin late this year, early next year, hopefully. And yeah, we'll see what we'll see what other stories I come up with in the future, I guess. Follow me on social media to sometimes see me get depressed about the Red Sox.
Well, all his stuff will be in the description on the YouTube. So if you need to go find his stuff, it'll be there. And Joe, again, thank you for joining. We appreciate you. Mike, much love. Thank you for stepping in for Dewey. For all that were in the chat or who will watch the replay or listen to the podcast when Dewey gets back and he uploads it, appreciate you all. And we will see you next time on a Schmudgeon of Curmudgeon, or as we called it today, a Bludgeon of Curmudgeon. So, thanks, everyone. Bye. Wave awkwardly until we're done.